Hello and welcome back to the Second Chance to Live channel here on YouTube. I'm happy to see that you decided to stop by to watch this video presentation. Thank you. In today's video presentation, I'm going to be sharing an article that I wrote several days ago. I create video presentations of my articles to help individuals who learn more effectively through watching and listening, to help them gain the information. To read the article, I'll put my glass back on and bring up the article. I want to thank you for your time. You are an important part of my process, and I always enjoy our times together. Here's the article: Brain injury, damaged filters, stress, and taking care of myself. Are you living the impact of a brain injury? Are impulses getting in your way? Do you beat up on yourself? Do you respect your limits? Are you taking care of yourself? Would you like to take back your power? Would you like to live your life in a different way? These are questions that I've also asked myself. So you're not alone if you're asking those questions. In August 1967, when I was 10 years old, I was in a motor vehicle accident with family. In the accident, I sustained an open skull fracture with right frontal lobe damage, a severe brain bruise with brainstem involvement. I remained in a coma for 3 weeks. I also sustained a fractured left femur or thigh bone and remained in traction for 7 weeks. After completing traction, I was put into a spica or full body cast in which I remained for 5 months. Once my external wounds healed and I was taken out of the cast, the impact of the damage done to my brain became invisible. Because I looked normal, although I walked with a limp for a very long time, the impact of my brain injury, or the injury to my brain, at the time of the accident was no longer a consideration. Because I learned how to walk, talk, read, write, and speak in complete sentences, the impact of the injury to my brain became invisible. Because there was little information known about brain injuries at the time and I looked normal, I was essentially on my own. I had no idea how the damage to my brain affected my life and well-being. I had no idea that I could take a different course of action. I had no idea that I had a choice. I had no idea that I could experience different outcomes. I had no idea that I could respect my limits. I had no idea that I could take back my power. I had no idea that I could take care, or I could, or how to take care of myself as an individual living with a brain injury, concerning the impact that it was having upon my life without me knowing. I had no idea how stress led to my feeling overwhelmed. I had no idea how stress increased my susceptibility to overreacting. I had no idea that I could change. After many years of struggling to make sense of the walls I kept bumping into vocationally, I was made a client of the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. During my first of 2 experiences as a client of DVR, I became aware of the impact of the damage done to my right frontal lobe. I learned that my right frontal lobe contains filters that monitor impulse control. Once these filters have been damaged, behaviors once closely monitored by the filters now have holes or gaps in them. The holes or gaps in the filters allow once monitored impulse control to seep through the once undamaged filters. Because of the damage done to the filters, monitoring impulses and reactions once controlled or disciplined now become unpredictable. Because of the damage to the filters in my right frontal lobe, once small responses to people, places, and things became huge reactions to people, places, and things. But I am glad that I became aware. I am glad that I discovered that I could take a different course of action to get different results in my life. Once I became aware of the holes or gaps in the filters of my right frontal lobe, I found hope. I began to realize that I could stop reacting to people, places, and things in my life. I began to realize that I could monitor and look for patterns in how I related to people, places, and things. I began to realize that by making peace with my past, I could begin to keep the focus on myself, instead of continuing to blame anyone, including myself. I began to realize that by monitoring my impulses to reactions to people, places, and things, I could empower my life, well-being, and my relationships. I began to realize that instead of projecting my irritability, restlessness, and discontent onto other people, I could take responsibility for my reactions. I began to realize that I could stop taking responsibility for other people's irritability, restlessness, and discontent. I began to realize that I could become an actor instead of a reactor to people, places, and things by monitoring my filters, by exercising discipline. Now, this discipline took time. So if you're reading this article and you think it's an overnight process, it's not. It just takes time to learn how and about yourself so that you can monitor the reactions that you go through as you interact with individuals. At the end of this article, I have a link to a article that I'll share as I get to that point in this presentation. And the information in that article helped me to begin to stop reacting to people, places, and things while keeping the focus on myself. Continuing with the article, I began to realize that I could become an actor instead of a reaction to people, places, and things by monitoring my filters. I began to realize I could stop taking responsibility for people's irritability, restlessness, and discontent, to taking responsibility for my triggers under stress, and by monitoring how I responded to people, places, and things, I found a new freedom. A freedom to manage the stress that I experienced because of the damage to the filters in my right frontal lobe. A freedom to own my irritability, restlessness, and discontent. With my ongoing freedom, I began to realize that I could create a good life for myself. A good life for myself despite being susceptible to being overwhelmed by stress at times. I began to realize that I could stop beating up on myself for my susceptibility to overreact to people, places, and things at times. I began to realize that I could take care of myself in difficult situations by learning how I handled and reacted to each stressful situation as I related to people, places, and things. I began to realize that I was not responsible for other people, or I should say again, I began to realize that it was not other people's responsibility to understand how my life was impacted by the damage done to my filters. I began to realize that I no longer needed anyone else's permission to be able to accept myself as an individual living with the damage done to the filters in my right frontal lobe. I began to realize that I could take responsibility for my reaction to stress. I began to realize that I could be my own advocate by monitoring my reactions to people, places, and things. I began to realize that I could take care of myself in stressful situations. And here's the article link that I told you about earlier in this presentation. The article is Living with a Brain Injury, Overwhelmed and Overreacting, Taking Back My Power. Again, living with a brain injury, overwhelmed and overreacting, taking back my power. This is the end of the video presentation. Before I go, let me encourage you, be gentle with yourself through this process. It takes time. It's taken me a lot of time, and I don't do it perfectly by any stretch of the imagination. but I'm aware. So with increased awareness, I'm able to take a different course of action and get different results in my life. And by taking a different, examining the reactions, the way that you react to people, places, and things under stress, learning from them instead of blaming other people for your reactions will empower your life by allowing you to take a different course of action in the future to empower your life, well-being, and relationships. Again, I'm in the process of doing this myself. So again, be gentle with yourself. I'll say so long for now. Let me encourage you with this before I go. Please do not give up on yourself, a loving God, or your process, because more will be revealed to you and to me with time. The pieces of the puzzle will come together in the correct order and at the right time. I'll say so long for now. Have a great day, and God bless both you and your family. So long now.